Hey guys, welcome to HipHughes History. A spoonful of HipHughes makes the learning go down. We're banging out the 23rd Amendment, guys, as we continue with the Constitution for Dummies series. I'm so excited. I got my voting shirt on. I got my presidential button jacket on because I'm ready to give some voting rights away. Find out who the lucky winner is with a bang bang to giddy up. Alright, you guys know how this works, right? We're gonna pitch you the words of the 23rd Amendment, a little music. Here we go, baby.
Section 1. The district constituting the seat of government of the United States shall appoint in such manner as the Congress may direct a number of electors of President and Vice President equal to the whole number of senators and representatives in Congress to which the district would be entitled if it were a state, but in no event more than the least populous state. They shall be in addition to those appointed by the states, but they shall be considered for the purposes of the election of President and Vice President to be electors appointed by a state, and they shall meet in the district and perform such duties as provided by the 12th Article of Amendment. Section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation.
So there you go. We're going to give Washington, D.C. a little bit of representation, but not a lot of bit of representation. Let's start with the Constitution, because you always talk about the Constitution when you're talking about the Constitution. And if we look at Article 1, Section 8, this is really important, right, guys? This is delegated power. Article 1 is the legislative branch. Section 8 is, this is what you get to do. The list of powers that we give the federal government. And amongst those is the power of Congress to run the capital city. And in 1790, the capital city moved from New York City to Washington, D.C. And Congress ran it. There's no mayor, there's no senators, there's no House members. Congress is running Washington, D.C. So those people have no... because they don't have a voice in their government. So this becomes an issue really not till the end of the 19th century. So around 1890, Congress begins to mull around the idea of giving kind of like a voting rights bill through the legislature to give them some type of voice in government. But it really doesn't go far. And then we do get something called the Citizens Joint Committee, which is a lobby group that's based in Washington, D.C. that was very bipartisan. You have to remember, before the 1960s, Washington, D.C. is a coin toss in a sense. There's Democrats, there's Republicans. It's a very mixed type of city, not huge diversity, but it's an average city. So Republicans like Dwight Eisenhower and Richard Nixon, they support the idea. The lead guy behind the amendment is Thurston B. Morton from Kentucky, who's a Republican. He was, I believe, in charge of the RNC, the Republican National Committee, and he's the guy that, put the pressure on Kansas in 1961 to be the 38th state to get this puppy ratified. So it's both Democrats and Republicans that want this amendment passed. The amendment was first proposed in 1960, before JFK was elected, and quickly by 1961, Kansas becomes that state to make it an amendment in the Constitution. Was there anybody against it? Yeah, there was. And if you look at the map, you can see the states that did not ratify that amendment, and you might be able to think of a similarity. I don't know, I'm thinking out loud to myself, where could they be? Yeah, it's in the Deep South. Because I believe they had the foresight to understand race is always a part of the discussion, guys, as uncomfortable it is, that Washington, D.C. is going to be a liberal, African-American based city eventually. And that's true. By the 1970s, the African-American population in Washington, D.C. is far outnumbered the white population. So I believe the southern states are seeing this in their best segregationalist interest, not to give Washington, D.C. a voice. So what kind of voice do they get out of this? They get 3 electoral votes. The amendment's really specific, guys. It doesn't say you're like every other state and we're going to base it on your house number based on your population and the Great Compromise. You're going to get 3. You're going to get whatever the lowest state gets, and that's 3. Now, if the lowest state has 5 electors, you can have 5 electors if your population would give you that, but you ain't getting more than what the least amount state has. And right now that's Wyoming, and Washington, D.C. actually has a bigger population than Wyoming, but they would get 3 anyway, to be honest with you. But they don't get a House member, and they don't get senators for real. They only get them imaginary. They're like invisible spirits. But they do give them these 3 electoral votes, and you can see that in the words of the amendment. Now, this issue hasn't gone away. In 1973, Congress passed the D.C. Home Rule Act, and this gives Washington, D.C. residents a voice in their local affairs. They have a mayor and a legislature. They're run in a sense like other cities. They do have local voice representation, and they do get to vote in presidential elections, but no House member and no senators. In 1978, Congress passed the D.C. Voting Rights Amendment, and this would have given Washington, D.C. full representation, 2 House member and 2 senators. But that amendment didn't go very far. So right now, no, they don't get that type of representation. And maybe you could leave a comment below. What do you think? Do residents of Washington, D.C., do they, have the right to have a House member and to have 2 senators? And if they do, what would that mean? What would the effect be? And of course, the effect of them getting the presidential vote is Democrats win, man, right? Democrats are going to win Washington, D.C. no matter what. Even like every election. Look at 1984. Bang. Look at, see the Washington, D.C. right there? Right? Ronald Reagan, 1980. Bang, go back 4 years with Washington, D.C., right? Every election, Washington, D.C. is going to go Democratic, probably for a gillion years. But nevertheless, we're done with this lecture. The 23rd Amendment. Check out the buttons, the voting t-shirt. Congratulations, Washington, D.C. residents. You earned your representation. I don't know if you're going to get any more, though. Not in my lifetime. We'll see you next time, guys. Make sure you check out other lectures. You can click that button right there, and that'll zip you off to HipHughes history. And certainly, we would like you to subscribe and check out other EDU channels. So when you're watching YouTube, you ain't just watching the cat videos. You're doing the learning. All right, guys, giddy up. Where attention goes, energy flows. And out.